Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco, and it's so nice to be here with all of you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Later in the show, I'm going to be joined by Christine O'Leary. Christine is the U.S. Board Trustee for the Hemochromatosis International Organization, and she has a really great story to share with all of us. At the end of the show, Sherry Morrison will be with us for her Lifestyle Watch segment, and she'll be joined by Ellen Yin. Ellen is an award-winning restaurateur here in the Philadelphia area, owning multiple restaurants. And as always, thank you so much to my watch team of corporate partners who support the show. If you're new and you want to learn more, you can visit womentowatch.net. That's women, the number 2, watch.net, N-E-T. So now I'm very excited to welcome to the show, Christine O'Leary. Christine, thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Sue. I tremendously appreciate it.
I apologize for the little flub at the opening. I kept thinking I want to pronounce hemochromatosis correctly.
It's difficult to say. That is a difficult condition to say, but easy to treat. We'll talk about that.
And actually, not that common. I have to say, before I met you, I had not heard about this particular disease before. So it's going to be interesting to let people know more about it.
Great. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to first start out and find out a little bit more about the young Christine. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the community you grew up in Pittsburgh.
Oh, absolutely. So I am born and raised in Pittsburgh, went to college in Pittsburgh at Duquesne University. And the neighborhood that I grew up in the city, and it's called Brookline. It's in the South Hills. And it was a wonderful, wonderful community of kind people, plenty of organized sports to keep all of the kids out of trouble, and just a great, great supportive community. Everybody knew everybody. And so as a kid, you couldn't get away with much because somebody would be telling your parents. And it was wonderful. And I played basketball and softball, and the community center in our neighborhood was through City Parks, which is the city-run formalized parks and recreation. And they were like a second family. And we would go when the sun came up, and when the street lights came on, we would go back home. And we spent our entire day at the Brookline Community Center, and it was wonderful.
Did you have siblings?
I have one sibling. I have an older brother. Okay. And whatever he did, I followed. I was basically his shadow. So he played baseball, I played softball. He played basketball, I played basketball. And so it was one of those things. And it was very nice because we were very close growing up. And I always knew that I was always in a safe zone because I knew like he wasn't too far away.
Yeah, I have one of those. Tell me, when did you start to think about pursuing pharmacy or going to pharmacy school and getting into the field of health? Where did that inspiration come from?
So it actually came from my mother. I wasn't certain what I wanted to do when I, was getting to the age of determining college, et cetera. But I absolutely positively love science. I always have. I love everything about it. I like learning about it, talking about it. And it was my mom who said, you should try pharmacy school. It's a great profession, particularly for women. If you decide to take a break from your career and then you want to step back in, you can always do that. And it was 100% my mom. And when I applied and eventually got in, I thought, it seems okay. I didn't have that role model of the community pharmacist that's so prominent now. I didn't know a lot about what it was, but I just knew I'd be taking 4 types of chemistry and some biology, and it was just wonderful. So I always say that I kind of tripped into pharmacy.
Oh, really? Yeah. I have a quote here. I love this because I think it says a lot about who you are. When you went to interview for pharmacy school, the assistant dean, cannot believe he said this, you'll never make it because your math scores are so low. And if you do, you'll struggle.
Yes.
And you said, challenge accepted. And then you landed on the dean's list. So
yeah,
I love that about those two words are such a great example for young girls.
Thank you. And, it took me, I held it together during the interview because I was so stunned that that would be said I was like, well, that's not supportive at all.
That's not something an educator should be saying.
I was like,
wow.
And once I got into, my mom picked me up from the interview, and I just broke down in tears. I'm like, I'm never going to get in. And he said, my math scores are too low. And she went, they weren't that low. I'm like, I don't know. I guess if I do get in, I'm going to struggle. And she went, listen, you're going to get in and you're going to get through as long as you put your mind to it and you work hard at it. And it was very hard. Pharmacy school is incredibly difficult, as it should be with any of the healthcare professions. But I was really proud of myself that I ended up making dean's lists every semester. And I'd be like, hello, Dr. So-and-so, how are you?
Oh, I was hoping you went back to show that report card. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at me. Yeah. But no, it was an interesting start to the pharmacy career, but something that it really motivated me. It really did.
Tell me about mom and dad. Did your mom work outside of the house? Did she do?
No, she did not, but she was very active in our community. She was a Democratic committee woman for our local district in Pittsburgh. And she was also one of the founding members of a nonprofit organization called the South Pittsburgh Development Corporation that worked with the city to have a say for what types of developments would happen within the Brookline community. And so she was one of the founding board members for that.
Okay. Yeah.
My father was very active. Yeah. And my father was a homicide detective. So he had been with the Pittsburgh police for, 32 years when he did retire. And so service to others was always something that was instilled in myself and in my brother as a way to give back to the community and a way to get a tremendous amount of fulfillment. And it was wonderful to have those models when I was growing up, because it really helped me, select a profession. Granted, I didn't know if I wanted to go into pharmacy, but I knew it was science and I knew I'd be helping people. And so it checked the two most important boxes for me at the time.
Yeah. Tell me about, what was your very first job out of college?
My very first job out of college was I was what's called a floating pharmacist for Thrift Drug, which no longer exists. It's now under the Rite Aid umbrella. And it's what they call community pharmacy or retail pharmacy. It was really fun because I covered a lot of shifts in my hometown, in Brookline. And so it was so fun because people would be like, oh, Christine, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? How can I help you? And it was really wonderful. One of the challenges with community pharmacy is that the business model is set up that it's based on the volume of prescriptions that you do. And it really puts a lot of pressure on the pharmacist to balance that patient care aspect with, I have to hit numbers or, to get additional help, et cetera. And so that was, I did that for 3 years before finding out about an opportunity in what's now considered managed care pharmacy. And I was with Statlander's Pharmacy, and they had exclusive distribution of one of the first protease inhibitors for HIV and AIDS at a time when the disease was still being investigated. At that point, it was still considered a terminal condition. And so it was, again, by happenstance that I was contacted. I was lucky enough to secure the position, and I was with them for 7 years. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing. We got to do that one-on-one patient care that really ideally should be happening in the community setting because the pharmacists are so accessible. There was a business model for Statlanders that allowed us to do that, though. There was appropriate support. There was dedicated time where you were only speaking to the patients to help them manage their medications. And it was a truly life-changing experience.
I've always been curious how much a pharmacist is able to or is supposed to be involved in asking questions of people that walk in to pick up their prescriptions.
Absolutely. And I encourage everyone to talk to their community pharmacist. We are the most accessible licensed healthcare providers in the US. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can find a CVS, a Rite Aid, a Walgreens, where there will be a licensed healthcare professional there. And we're trained to talk to the patients, to ask the questions, to ensure that inappropriate treatment is not being administered, or help with those, what we call like over-the-counter problems, poison ivy, allergies, those types of things, and identify if there's something more serious that needs to be referred to a physician. So I've always seen the pharmacist as a great liaison between the general public and the formal healthcare team in the hospitals or in the physician's office. We really can play a huge role in it when given the opportunity.
Yeah. And you know what? We have, us lay people, so many questions today, when it pertains to healthcare. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I want to go back for a second. You shared with me that you had a very impactful experience when you were 16 and went on a trip to Ireland with your aunt. Tell me, what was it about that trip that has stayed with you?
What stayed with me was that it just instantly opened my eyes to the world outside of my neighborhood, outside of the floor block radius of my house. I had not traveled extensively. My family and I, we'd always go on a vacation, but it was a local vacation. And it forced me to be comfortable in situations that aren't necessarily comfortable. Meaning in certain parts of Ireland, Gaelic is still the first language. And so if someone approached me and started speaking Gaelic, I would have to politely say, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't speak Gaelic. Do you speak English? And it just gave me that perspective of not everybody's going to be exactly like me. Not everybody is going to have the same experiences that I do. And there's so much that you can learn from stepping out of your comfort zone into other areas and trying to get a pulse on another person's perspective. And so for me, it really triggered my global interests and expanding the work that I do beyond the borders of my hometown, my state, or even the US.
Do you happen to have family in Ireland?
Yes, I do. Yes.
And that was one
of the, so my family is from County Cork. And it's, my grandfather's originally from a city called Timoleague, and we still have a number of relatives there. And that was the surprise I had. To this day, I'm still shocked that my aunt bought me a plane ticket to go with her, and it was just, met all these cousins who were my age, and it was just so much fun. And they would ask me a ton of questions. At the time, I think Dynasty was one of the big programs that was on TV there, and they would call it Dynasty, and I got the biggest kick out of it. I was like, oh, that's so great. It really was a lot of fun to connect with them.
I want to talk about, your dad is really the person in your life that inspires you to get involved in the research and development for new drugs around hemochromatosis, which, by the way, for people that don't know, is too much or too little iron in our system. I'm going to let you, give a better definition.
Absolutely. So hemochromatosis is the medical term for a genetic condition that causes your body to absorb too much iron. So hemochromatosis is iron overload.
Okay.
The reality is too much or too little iron can kill you. With hemochromatosis, some people have a genetic predisposition to absorb more iron from their diet than the typical person. And the challenge is our body does not naturally eliminate iron. So if you have too much, it starts to get stored in your major organs and it destroys them. And that sadly is what happened to my dad. He passed away in 2019. And it wasn't until a year before he had passed that he received an accurate diagnosis. Hemochromatosis, interestingly, is one of the most common genetic disorders in the world. And yet it's frequently misdiagnosed because it kind of masks away. It hides out as other conditions, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these conditions that are very familiar for the healthcare team. But when at times in certain patients, the root cause is that there's too much iron, and it's so treatable. No one should suffer a complication from it. No one should pass away from it, but it's challenging to diagnose, and you have to specifically ask for your iron to be checked.
So this is what confuses me when they do typical lab work. Anytime, you go for tests, isn't iron in the blood work? No?
I'm so glad that you asked that, Sue, because it's not. One of the challenges for me was I was part of my father's healthcare team for most of his treatment. I managed his medications. I worked with his physicians. And when he got the diagnosis, we were all like, we missed this? Because he went for blood work religiously every 6 months, and he would do what the doctor said. That's the challenge. Iron is not on routine blood work. And we hope to change that at some point, but it's going to be challenging.
That's a very simple, kind of actionable step to take, I would imagine.
It is. Yeah.
Is it the cost every time there's another test? Is there another cost that's significant?
That's also a great question, because the cost of an iron panel is under $50 to do the external test. You can do it through private laboratories. It's just a function of our understanding of iron and how it contributes to disease has evolved tremendously. And at one point, our understanding of it was such that it just wasn't on routine blood work. But those routine blood panels are so entrenched right now in our healthcare that to change them or to go beyond that takes that extra step.
Okay. We're going to go into our first break, and we'll talk more about that when we come back. And the numbers, I was surprised 11 million Americans have a gene that could lead to too much iron. That's a big number.
Yes, it is.
Stay with us for our watch team if you're listening on Talk Radio 1210, and we'll be right back with Christine O'Leary.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. Welcome back to the show. I'm Sue Rocco, and you're watching Women to Watch. And I'm joined this week by Christine O'Leary. Christine is the U.S. Board Trustee for the Hemochromatosis International. And by the way, also a global leader with Spark Therapeutics, which we can talk a little bit about as well. Just before the break, I mentioned a number that, when I was doing my research, I thought was pretty high. Again, not for having not heard so much about this particular condition. 11 million Americans have the gene that can lead to too much iron. So should we be checking? How do we know? What can we do?
Well, it's an excellent question. And certain groups are at higher risk than others. And one of the groups that is at highest risk to develop it are people of Irish descent and people of Northern European descent. So Irish, Scottish, English. If you have that history, that ancestry, there is a higher chance that you do have the gene, the genetic mutation that could lead to iron overload. If you have had a family member who has, like in my situation, my father passed away from it. So his children, his siblings, we all routinely check our iron panel. And one of the challenges with the understanding of the condition is you can have the genetic mutation, but that doesn't guarantee that you will develop it. It just increases your risk. And so monitoring an iron panel on a yearly basis is an excellent way to screen for it and catch it early, because when caught early, it's easily treatable. And people with the condition who get the appropriate treatment live as long as those who do not have it. And so it's a bit of an, it just kind of hides in the shadows, I feel like sometimes. But you can always think of, I've done different awareness campaigns for the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Pittsburgh, because the Irish have one of the highest prevalences of it. As many as 1 in 10 people of Irish descent have that genetic mutation.
Wow. So that's not good for me, because I did my ancestry and I'm 96% Irish.
Well, Sue, you'll be getting an iron panel check soon.
I'll be getting an iron panel. Oh my gosh. That I wonder why, culturally certain conditions, diseases manifest in one culture over another. Is there,
yes,
do you have any sense for that?
There's been a lot written about the origins of hemochromatosis in the Celtic community. And there's been discussion of it was brought over by the Vikings, or that it was a natural biological change due to limitations in the diet that may have existed. So there was the potato famine in Ireland at a certain point. And did that cause a biological change that a person could gain more iron from less food? The exact origin is not known, but there are a lot of different theories as to how it popped up.
Wow. Christine, I watched an interview you did when you were talking about your dad, and you got very emotional. And I wonder if you can talk about, where you are today with that feeling of, gosh, how could I have missed that in my dad being in the healthcare profession?
It's been 13 years, and I still get as emotional when I talk about it, because it could have been prevented. Through my father's death, it broke our family. He was the heart of our family. He was the center of it. He kept us all in check. And when he passed, and having that knowledge of, what do you mean this didn't have to happen, this could have been prevented, was incredibly difficult, and it continues to be. What I chose to do, I felt like I know more now, so I have to do more. And using my experience as a healthcare provider who does focus on healthcare communications and having that direct family experience with losing a family member, it was for me the right thing to do, to seek out more information, to see are other people experiencing this, because I was so heartbroken that here we are, I'm a healthcare professional, I'm my dad's health advocate, this happened to him, he has access to care, he has adequate insurance, and yet he still suffered a misdiagnosis. What is happening to people who don't have the same situation that we do? How frequently are they not getting diagnosed and dying prematurely? And so that's one of the ways that I process my grief about it.
I wanted to ask you about your belief or opinion on, you know, as we learn more about DNA and the testing that's taking place, you know, should we be testing ourselves for certain genes? You know, it's something people think about a lot, especially, I think we all have something in our family tree, if you look back.
Exactly.
And yeah, you know, how little should we be doing that and trying to find out?
That's an excellent question. And there are several schools of thought on it. My personal opinion is that we need to be judicious about it, particularly with something like hemochromatosis. I mentioned briefly, you can have the genetic mutation, but may not develop the disease. And so the best screening to do is the iron panel, which is simple, it's inexpensive, and it gives the exact information that's needed to treat the condition. Routine genetic testing that's available can cause a tremendous amount of concern, and the available information that the healthcare teams have can be very limited. And so there are times where we just don't know if a patient, when I was in practice at Jefferson Family Medicine, on occasion, somebody would come in with a 23andMe or what does this mean? And it would take a lot of investigation, which is excellent when you uncover something, but can also be very, very upsetting for the patient as they're trying to get the information. And so I think there is definitely a place for it. In terms of what we advocate for hemochromatosis, it is not genetic screening, it is the iron panel. And again, because that's what's going to give you the information you need to get treated.
So if you discover that, you know, you have it, is there a prescription drug? What are the things that are prescribed for people that uncover it?
Excellent. So the treatment actually is donating blood. It's called therapeutic phlebotomy. Your physician writes a prescription and you donate multiple times, either once a week, twice a week, until you get your iron levels down enough that you're what's considered in maintenance. And so that's another arm of the advocacy that we're trying to do, is to make people aware of therapeutic phlebotomy or prescribed blood donation is the treatment. And that blood can be utilized for our public health supply and address shortages that frequently happen in our blood supply system in the US.
Wow. Is there anything going on within the organization that you're excited about or that is developing that you would want to share?
Oh, absolutely. So we just finished the Light Up Red campaign. So June 1st through 7th is International Hemochromatosis Awareness Week, where we wear red and we light up red to raise awareness of the condition. And in Philadelphia, I was fortunate enough to get Boathouse Row lit up red on Friday the 3rd. We also got the Pico building, and we had a very nice small gathering down at the Art Museum as a way to raise awareness about it, because that's what it takes. Does not need to be a terminal condition. It is when it's not diagnosed appropriately and there's too much of a delay. And something as simple as an iron panel can save your life. And so that it was only when I got involved with Hemochromatosis International and our Ireland agency started the campaign last year. that we've got this light up red, and it really gathered a lot of momentum. Even here in Cleveland, the Tower City Tower lit up red. And in Boston, the basketball arena lit up red for hemochromatosis awareness. And so I'm really, really excited about that because it's a formalized campaign. It's very well developed, and it has a simple message, and it's simply check your iron.
Yeah. By the way, you have a day job, a day job. You're an executive with Spark Therapeutics. Tell me about that company, what your role is there, and are they kind of supporting your advocacy for the hemochromatosis?
Oh, excellent. Yes. So I am a global medical communications lead for gene therapy at Spark Therapeutics. So Spark Therapeutics is a Philadelphia-based biotechnology company investigating gene therapy for rare diseases. The major difference between what Spark focuses on and what I focus on is that the hemochromatosis is so common and not necessarily amenable to gene therapy because we're still learning so much about it. And there's simply not that clear-cut path with other diseases. So for Spark Therapeutics, we have one FDA-approved product, Luxturna, for a form of inherited retinal disease. We're currently investigating a gene therapy for hemophilia and for Pompe disease. These rare diseases that have a incredibly negative impact on quality of life and are a huge burden to the people and the caregivers of persons who have these conditions. And it's fascinating work, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
And how long have you been in that role, communications for Spark?
3.5, almost 4 years now.
Okay. And am I right to say that gene therapy is not something that's been around for a very long time? And what exactly is it?
Absolutely. No, you are 100% correct. In fact, the product that Spark brought to the market, Luxturna, was the first gene therapy for an inherited condition approved in the United States. So gene therapy, while there's a tremendous amount of excitement and there's a tremendous amount of work happening, is still in the very early stages of its development. And there are a myriad of different approaches that different companies take, and you really need to look at it on a product by product basis to understand the technology.
Christine, I'd love to talk to you about women in science. This show really is very much about women and, across all industries. But when I think about science and how much is happening so rapidly, I guess my first question is, what is the ratio of women at Spark? And what are your thoughts on how we can really encourage more young girls to pursue a field that traditionally was male dominated?
This is one of my favorite topics because I'm a huge advocate for young girls to get interested in the sciences because number one, it's fascinating. Number two, there's tremendous opportunity. And honestly, one of the things that attracted me to Spark Therapeutics 3+ years ago, it was founded by a woman. The chief medical officer was a woman. And I really was so impressed of being able to work in an organization where the executive and the C-suite was predominantly women. I had not experienced that previously, and it's supportive and it's inspiring. The president at the time, Dr. Kathy High, was at the University of Pennsylvania for many years before starting the Spark Therapeutics, and the chief medical officer, Dr. Kathy Reed, also from the University of Pennsylvania. These amazing, intelligent women who are really broke ground on advancing the roles of women in science. To be a part of that was incredibly inspiring.
Are there initiatives within your company that kind of support and bring education resources to the women that work for you?
Absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about Spark Therapeutics is the community engagement that the company is dedicated to. And so we have STEM programs, opportunities for students in the Philadelphia area to come and get an idea of what does it mean to be in science and what can you do. And there is an arm of it that's dedicated solely to women in science.
We just have a couple of minutes left. Christina, when I think about our healthcare system, you know, again, everything seems to be kind of pre-COVID, post-COVID. Right now, as we speak, there's another kind of scare with another variant coming back. What would you most like to see change in our healthcare system? If you could pick a number one area, I know there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. What are you hoping will be at the forefront of change for our healthcare?
A shift in perspective from treatment to prevention. There are so many conditions that if diagnosed early enough or screened for early enough, can be easily managed, that not a complication or a death result from it. And I do think there is more of a focus now on prevention in medicine. It's now become a very large focus within the practicing community. But that very frequently we treat the symptoms without necessarily knowing what the root cause is. And that's the crux of prevention, is finding, okay, well, what exactly is causing your rheumatoid arthritis or your diabetes? In my father's case, it was, of all things, too much iron. And so getting to that root cause, focusing more upstream on preventing the complications rather than only engaging with the healthcare system when you're sick. And so that we become a wellness system rather than a sick care system.
So it makes me think about our children and whether we should be doing something from the start, right, with them, rather than waiting to see what's going to develop in them. And what could we do as far as, you know, beyond checkups that they get? Right. No, I think it's very important. And I would love to see, as part of the elementary school curriculum all the way through high school and into college, that there be a Healthcare 101 curriculum embedded of this is how you get a doctor's appointment. This is what insurance is. These are some of the benefits and these are some of the limitations. And getting that healthcare literacy, that understanding, so that they're their own best advocates. That would be that's one of my dreams, is that we arm our children with the knowledge of being like, nobody knows my body better than I do. We are all our own experts on how we feel. Now, use that information and advocate for yourself to get the best care possible. And ask the questions, right? I often think about, you know, when I was young, and I'm so old that our doctor came to our house with his little black bag, and whatever he said we should do, we did. And now I know it's okay and it's smart to ask questions of these doctors. Yeah, absolutely. And there's wonderful people in healthcare that want to help and want to answer your questions. And the best answer sometimes is, I'm not sure, but let's try to find out together. Yeah. And so it is so critical. It is a shift in the mentality of the patient. We need to be our own advocates. We need to be comfortable asking. And honestly, if your provider's not comfortable with you asking, is that the right provider for you? Right. And you are in a position to make that decision because it's your health. Right. That's really great advice. Christine, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to share your life story. I very much appreciate it. And I wish you continued success in your work. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Sue. I appreciate the opportunity to be on. We're going to go into a break. And when we come back, Sherry Morrison will be with Ellen Yin. Stay tuned.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's see the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome to Women to Watch Lifestyle segment. I'm Sherry Morrison. Today I am honored to introduce you to and interview Ellen Yin, founder and partner of High Street Hospitality Group and Fork Restaurant. Thank you for joining us today, Ellen.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks so much for hosting.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm thrilled that you're here and able to talk to us a little bit about your career and all of your accomplishments. And I don't want to embarrass you, but it's difficult to not talk about them and put the spotlight on you because you really have done quite a bit for the hospitality restaurant industry, not just in Philadelphia, but everywhere. Ellen was nominated 3 times and a semifinalist for the James Beard Restaurant Award. She's known as the woman who first transformed Philadelphia dining scene. She's one of Philadelphia's most successful and insightful restaurateurs and a trailblazer of the farm and to table movement. Ellen, your accomplishments and contributions to the industry, community, and culture in Philadelphia itself is a program all on its own.
Thanks, Sherry.
So let's start off with a little bit about where you grew up in your education and how you ended up doing all of these wonderful things.
Well, I'm from a small town in Monmouth County, New Jersey, near Sandy Hook. And I, like so many young people, started working in a restaurant when I was in high school, and I just always fell in love with it. Of course, my mother was an incredible entertainer. You know, we would always have people at the house on the weekends. My father had a large family, and so whether it was relatives or colleagues or friends, my mother was always, you know, putting together a dinner party. And I always loved being part of serving people and cleaning up even. So that's kind of where I got my start. And then when I went to college in Philadelphia, I just continued working in a restaurant for the most part. I took a year off from school, went back home, had a life crisis, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And when I came back, I thought to myself, maybe the thing that's missing is working in a restaurant. And so I got a job at a restaurant called La Terrace, which, you know, in the 80s and in its heyday was a very relevant Philadelphia restaurant. That was my first urban restaurant experience.
Yeah, I understand exactly the path that you started on. I had a very similar one. I worked for a small caterer. It was actually a girlfriend's mother, all through early high school, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. And then went to a very prestigious college, which my parents were very happy about. And after a year in college, decided that I didn't think this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the culinary industry in some manner. I was creative and everything, and you all, anybody who is in the vicinity of the Outer Banks in 1979 may have heard my father's reaction when I said I did not want to go back to culinary, to William and Mary. So anyway, I get it. So you ended up going back to Penn, correct? And then
yeah,
what did
so while I was in college, I had the opportunity to write a business plan. I was an undergraduate at Wharton, and I had the opportunity to write a business plan about a restaurant or a location in Old City, just around the corner from where Fork is, in fact, at 3rd and Arch, where it was a jazz club with condominiums over it, an uncommon model in Philadelphia. But out of that, I realized that the amount of capital needed to open a restaurant was not going to happen in my immediate future at age 23. So I proceeded to try to find, a direction, just like so many other young people. And I worked in a number of different types of jobs, from advertising agency to fundraising, before I realized that I still wasn't sure what my direction was going to be. And I still thought I had this restaurant dream that I really wanted. So I escaped to graduate school, what a lot of people end up doing when they don't know what to do, and got a master's degree, an MBA in healthcare administration, and ended up working in management consulting and in a hospital at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. And after several years, still didn't feel the same satisfaction. And I think one day I opened up I think it was Food and Wine, and I saw all these young chefs and owners in their late 20s, early 30s. And I thought to myself, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And I felt committed at that point to trying at least. And fortunately, while I was in grad school, I met my current business partner, a longtime business partner over 25 years. We were classmates in graduate school, Roberto Sella. And, we both loved food and wine and just thought, wouldn't it be great to have a restaurant in Philadelphia? Roberto loved wine. He was always looking to have a place where he could bring his own wine. And I just felt that this was something that I had to do, despite my family's urging to do it later,
The stars all aligned.
The stars all aligned, right.
So about how long was it then until you opened Fork, and how did you ever come up with the name Fork?
Well, once I decided, I was really determined, but it was extremely difficult because writing the business plan was not that hard, but getting financing was much more challenging. And, even though I had the education backing me, I didn't have any experience. I'd never really run a restaurant. I had only been a bartender, server, a very familiar story to many people who want to enter the restaurant industry. You have this dream, and now you need to get the financing. And, we finally found a bank that was willing to make a loan to us. And I think all in, from the time that I decided that I was going to leave Jefferson to the time I opened, was 1.5 years.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
It was pretty quick. And how did I come up with the name Fork? Well, in my consulting travels, I was going to New York frequently, and I ran into a restaurant called Match. And the logo was just a box of matches, matchbook. And I thought that was so clever. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a restaurant which when you walk up to it, you just know that it's going to be about great food. And that was when we brainstorm what kind of icon that could be. Fork was the obvious choice.
It's perfect. It's perfect. You just want to pick up your fork and dig in.
Exactly.
Everything that you did on Market Street, where Fork is located, I love the interior design. It's calming, warm colors. It's artsy. The lamps, the chandelier lampshades that I can see behind you now, I am infatuated with and have been since the first time I saw them. the placement of your bar, the fact that it's square, everybody can see and be seen, and kind of they can talk to each other if they're interested. It's just like a warm and comfortable elegance. And you're celebrating your 25th anniversary this year at Fort. How exciting is that? Congratulations.
It's hard to believe, but we've been in Old City, like you said, for 25 years, and Old City is all about the artist community and the galleries, and First Friday at the time that we opened. And it was really a sleepy section of Center City. And it's amazing to see how much Old City has grown into independent businesses, into something that is going to develop with a park at the end, something that I'm really passionate about. But, just seeing the neighborhood grow has been an incredible experience.
Yeah. Well, aside from the restaurant, and you are also involved with another group that you started, High Street Hospitality Group. You oversee A Kitchen, A Bar, High Street on Market, and then High Street Hudson up in Manhattan. And then on top of that, you're very involved philanthropically. You started a cookbook. You published a cookbook, I think about 3 years after you started the restaurant. And was that your first philanthropic venture?
It was. I mean, having worked in nonprofit, I know how hard it is to raise money. And so that was always something that I felt was really important. A restaurant is a place where the community comes together and feels comfortable. And you mentioned our bar before, and I love how people would come together there, meet each other, and or sit next to somebody, and suddenly now they're chit-chatting and they end up becoming friends. I think that community element is something that is underestimated about restaurants. And restaurants have become a huge way for people to express their social mission. I mean, I worked for the White Dog way back when Judy Wicks was, the only person doing that. And so in a way I was inspired by her, but I think that it's so important to support the community. There's so many great missions out there. And so we've focused on a few that are really important to us. Obviously during the pandemic, feeding the food insecure women, which were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, and have for a long time not had the same resources and networks that men have had. So that's something very passionate to me. And then finally, the Wonton Project, which is raises money for against Asian American discrimination and racism. And so that was a project that came out of my mother's cooking. One of the few things that I do know how to cook. I'm not a chef, so people are always asking me about food, but I'm actually not a chef. I love food and I love service and hospitality, but I'm not the person making all the food.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you telling us about all of those different things, because you've been so involved and you're such a huge advocate for women and helping them learn how to network better together and be, sustain each other, and all of the different things that it takes to start a business. It's very difficult. It's really difficult. And you are huge in this category for just women look to you from all around, not just the restaurant and hospitality industry. So we appreciate it. And I want everybody to know that you're not just accomplished in restaurants, but an advocate for women and helping all of them. So I'm sorry that we are out of time, because I could go on with you for hours. I really appreciate you taking the time and energy to do this interview with us today. And if anybody is interested in more information about Ellen or Fork Restaurant, High Street Hospitality organizations, please go to www.highstreethospitality.com. And that's high, SE, the abbreviation for street, hospitality.com. I hope you will join us all next week. I'll be meeting with Marcy Schenkweiler of the For Pete's Sake Cancer Respite Foundation, and learning a little bit about how to take a break with cancer. Ellen, thank you again.
Thanks, Sherry.
And Sue Rocco will be right back to close out the show. Keep living your dreams, ladies. Thanks.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, Planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in to another week of Women to Watch. I'm so grateful for our old and new listeners and viewers. Great segment with Sherry and Ellen Yin. I've been going to her restaurants for years, and it's always so cool to hear somebody's backstory. Stay with us next week. I'll be with Kate Curran. Kate is the founder and CEO of School the World. And as always, a big thank you to my watch team of corporate partners for supporting the show and helping us to bring you these great stories of women leaders. Have a great week, everyone, and stay healthy.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.